anyway, the Kiki thing is very strange because she's obviously has something wrong with her because I guess Chad tweeted there's no reason for her to be there. So I guess I get why she's there because she wants to quote unquote uh be a witness to what happened. But again, the sets went down as this way, as far as I could tell. My opening was fine. The crowd was not like hot. They were not a hot crowd. So, when you go on first and you don't have a hot crowd, you just want to get some lamps going. Then Barry Ribs went on, and I missed most of his set because I just went on. So I came into the bar to kind of get a beer and just to kind of whatever. Because I haven't done stand up in I don't know how long, a while, at least a couple of years, I think. So, and on the way there, like I saw a couple on the subway holding hands, and I was like, so pathetic because, and then I started about, I've been married 20 years, coming up on 20 years, and I've never held my wife's hand on the subway, as far as I know. So I had some jokes about that, but I was just the jokes were coming into my head kind of as I was going there, and I had some stuff that I wanted, some prepared stuff about Dabbleverse stuff. So I was doing that stuff I knew was reliably funny with, my wife's stuff. Take my wife, please. I stole it from Nate Bargatze. So I could kind of gauge it by then. You can't really gauge a crowd on new material. You just can't. So you gauge a crowd on material that you know is going to work. It's timeless, about my wife, and blah, blah, blah. Just stuff I know is solid. So it worked fine. It wasn't like crushing, but it wasn't a crushing kind of room. So then I brought up Barry Ribs. And like I said, I was Barry's supposed to do 15, ended up doing 10. So I was in a bar just drinking a beer, and then they go, he's off. So again, he was supposed to do 15. I timed it. So he probably did 10. So then Ray was next. So I brought up Ray, and the crowd got all excited because, a lot it's Teo Hank, and that the loudest group is Teo Hank and whatever. And they're all chanting Ray, Ray. And again, it's fun. It's fun. Ray's an idiot, and Ray thinks he's winning because you get 8 guys to chant Ray, and then I joined the chant Ray, Ray, and then I didn't even give him an introduction. I just brought him up to everybody chanting Ray, and then after that I watched all the sets because I didn't want to get ooga booged again, be in a bar and not be there because the MC again. Most comics in New York, when they MC, they don't watch the show, which I think is a mistake. Because you should watch the show to see how people are doing and see what the crowd's doing, see what they're responding to. And then after, after Barry Riz was done, I knew we had Ray, so that wasn't a big deal. But basically, after that, I just stayed in the room and watched the show. And, unless I had and I just sat back in the back with Gina Levy. She deserves better than Bob Levy. That's a fact. I'm just saying. So then Ray went on, and I remember Ray got a couple of laughs on Dabbleverse stuff, and then but that was it. A lot of stuff where Dabbleverse stuff, it just didn't land for whatever reason. Most of the people there were Dabbleverse people, but you couldn't really tell exactly. So there were some regular non-Dabbleverse people there, and they ultimately would just leave, And then so then Ray went on. And then he closed with the point is Ray closed with the C word joke. And again, to see it in person and to see that there's really nothing there. The only reason I guess people laugh a little bit at it because he says the C word like literally 5 times or something. But the joke's stupid. It doesn't really make sense. It couldn't be made funnier, but of course Ray's an idiot. So he closes with that. Doesn't really get anything. And then Stevie Lou went up. Stevie Lou actually did good because he wasn't expected to go on, and he did well. And then Chad did really good. Chad was funny. Again, you couldn't kill because it just wasn't that kind of a room. It wasn't super crowded. It was probably half full. So when it's half full, you're gonna get the crowd's gonna laugh, but you don't get these big giant laughs. Chad was really funny because I was watching the whole set. I was watching in the back with Gina, and then Bob went on after Chad, and Bob was funny. Me and Gina were laughing. We were in holding hands. Gina brought her daughter, so that's it. That's it. So for Keanu to be there to watch the show, because then she can report to whoever, Gina or whoever, that this guy did well. So then after the show, of course, there's a lot of ruckus, and then at one point, Ray was selling these. Ray was selling these, and he didn't have a black pen. So see on the bottom, it's white, and on the top, it's white. I don't know who ripped it, but that's why you got a black pen. So Ray only had a gray pen. So of course, typical Ray, just incompetent, even when it comes to penmanship. So I see Ray. Oh, I see Brian Land or something, and he's like, Ray's mad because I didn't pay him. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, I said, you're supposed to pay Ray. He goes, you remember I said I was gonna, if Ray showed up, I would give him $100. I'm like, I guess vaguely. I mean, but I thought Ray was getting paid through Levy or the show. I had nothing to do with the money. I didn't get paid. I said I didn't need to get paid. It's a fucking home game for me. I don't need. I'd rather give the money to Chad or even Levy for gas and tolls or not Ray. I think that was the first time I went outside. I had to go to the ATM because I said, Ray, you didn't get paid, and he's literally in tears. Literally in tears. Like, no. I go, nobody paid you. I said, how much were you supposed to get paid? He goes, $100. And I said, and then he's like, I could have made 75 somewhere else. And it's like, okay, well, that's still not as good as and you wouldn't have got nobody would have chanted Ray, Ray, Ray at your other fucking show, you fucking loser. I got the money and I paid Ray. I came back and paid Ray $100. Then here's another fucking thing. And again, Schmuel Buckman, another just fucking grifting loser. He even Bob's like, I take a picture with Schmuel. I go, yeah, that's not happening, Bob. So again, I don't know. Bob thinks that if I'm friends with Schmuel, somehow that's a win for me or something. But I mean, you got to ask Bob that. Like, how is that good for me? If I know what Schmuel's going to do. Schmuel's going to be like, look, Kevin doesn't even. Kevin talks a big game. It's like I can't make him not be there. That's the problem with all these events. I can't make Keanu not be there because she was already there when I got there. And then, I said I was going to demand to see Schmuel's license before I let him in. But I think he came in late because I think he was coming in. It's kind of dark in the room, but I think he was coming in as I was being introduced. So I wasn't about to stop and go, Schmuel, let me see your ID because I got bigger fish to fry at that point. Because I think Brian McCarthy was on stage at that point. He was bringing me up. Then I'm kind of wrapping things up. I'm talking to him a little bit, I guess. And then I'm kind of wrapping things up, leaving. Or maybe I'm just zipping up or whatever. And I see, who do I see out of the corner of my eye? Schmuel Buckman coming into the bathroom. So, and this is after I already said, no, I'm not taking a picture with him to Bob Levy. And so Schmuel Buckman, I see peripherally because, I'm still kind of looking at the wall, zipping up. So the guy's still pissing, I guess. The guy's the first urinal. So I'm just leaving. I'm leaving the door. And at that point, Schmuel goes, hey, Kevin. And I just keep walking. So again, I don't, Schmuel might be some kind of fucking, who knows? Who knows? Ask Bob. Bob's tight with Schmuel, and Bob wants me to be friends with Schmuel so we can go get brunch. It's again. So this is what's happening. So then, we're all kind of going outside. And again, the whole thing with Keanu's standing in front of I think at the bar next door to Rodney's, like a $2 whore, like literally like a $2 whore on a Saturday night, not particularly attractive. Just let her, like, yeah, I'm a $2 whore. The way she's dressed, like a $2 whore. So, and then, I'm just, people are outside. So at this point, I'm like, I said I'm going to the bar next door. So I don't know, people are outside. Tommy Jordan showed up. And again, I don't know exactly what happened, but she's standing against the window, I think at the bar. So I'm walking, the door's near there. So I guess I'm walking towards the door. And then I don't know if Chad was outside or somebody said, "Oh, Keanu's talking to Gino." So then I did what Chad did. You know what Gino does? Dropped a lot of n bombs to as a gag, as a goof, as a goofy gag. So then whatever, and then Keanu's like, "Oh, that's I don't know." If she says like that's not appropriate. And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't give a fuck, you $2 whore." And then I learned all this from Gino and Anthony Cumia. Like if somebody's a pest, being a pestilent or pestilence or whatever the word is, if somebody's annoying you, I just doing what Gino does. If I was on my phone talking to somebody, Gino would be playing with my phone and, hey, I'm going to knock the phone out of your hand. So that's what I did with Keanu. Oh, look, I'm going to knock the phone out of your hand. And she's like, how dare you? How dare you? And I was like, you're a cunt. You're a fucking loser cunt. Why is Keanu there? Isn't she a comic? She didn't have any shows? Again, go to the show. I don't control it. I don't control the sidewalk either. Not only that, she had such a problem with me like dropping N-bombs when she was talking to Gino. She wasn't on speaker. Gino wasn't on speaker, so I don't know what Gino was saying. So then I'm like playing with the phone like I'm going to knock it out of her hand. And people are like, oh, you can't do that. I'm like, no, then Cumia ripped some glasses off some guy and the cop showed up. And then people are like, that's a crime to knock a phone out of someone's hands. I'm like, oh, it is? Oh, I'm gonna turn myself in. Citizen's arrest. So then not only that, then we all go inside. We go to the back. Who comes into the bar? Keanu. I'm like, she has nowhere to go still. And if she has such a problem with me outside, why would she come into the bar? And she never left. At one point, I had to tell Kevin Soundboard, I'm like, go ask Keanu why she's still here. Because Kevin Soundboard is a big guy. So I said, go ask Keanu why she's still here. She was at the bar. We were in the back at whatever the bar is next to Rodney's. We were in the back. We had like a couple of tables. And I was like, so I said to Kevin Soundboard, ask her why she's still, because at this point, it's late. I said, ask her why she's still here. So he went over, asked her. And he came back. I said, what'd she say? She's like, oh, she said she's leaving now. But it's like, why is she there? I understand she wants to watch the show and be ears on the ground and be like, yeah, this guy did well. This guy didn't do well. She was actually heckling Stevie Lou. So at some point I was going to be like, she should be tossed out. Because Mark, the owner, came up to me before I brought up Levy. He goes, can you get the crowd to calm down? I'm like, Bob. I said, yeah, but Bob can handle a fucking unruly crowd. And it wasn't that unruly. They were just chanting Chad and whatever. But I'm like, why is Keanu still here? But again, I'm not going to get her thrown out of Ronnie's because she's friends with the owner. So again, I don't give a fuck. But she's there. And again, I mean, these people are like, I don't even know exactly what happened to Keanu, but she is like a glutton for punishment because she could have just left. I understand she wants to report back to Gino about who did well and who didn't do well and what happened and what she saw. Go ahead, report all you want. I don't give a fuck. But then she's hanging out outside. She's not there with anybody. Like a $2 whore. And then after everyone disperses from the sidewalk and either goes home or goes inside, then she's still hanging out at the bar, turning tricks. Unfucking believable. And then Schmuel, I guess there's a video of Schmuel trying to get in a picture, still trying to get in a picture with Kevin Brennan. I mean, these people. Biggest takeaway, I don't know this for sure, but I have a hunch Theo Hank has saved Johnny Carson from getting his ass kicked dozens of times. Johnny Carson literally wanted to fight everybody. And then, I mean, it was fun. I felt sorry for Chad because he wasn't drinking. Like, I was never drunk or anything, but I was drinking. So, when you're drinking, it's easy to tolerate nonsense. But Chad's just sitting there, and I was like, I don't know how you're dealing with this. Yeah, and then Theo Hank left. And then Teamster Tim left. And I thought they were both going to give I thought they're both responsible for Johnny Carson. So I don't know. Johnny Carson was still there when I left. Gina's flat broken. Kiki is a perpetual victim. It's very odd. It's very odd. It's odd. It's odd. I understand that she wants to be at the show. Again, people like shows. But to not leave after the show, and then to go in a bar after that, that's when you go, she's just a glutton for punishment. So it's very odd. It's very fucking odd. What's worse, what Comia did at Ronnie, or are you playing with Kiki? No, yeah, I was playing with Kiki. I was playing with Kiki. And again, if I would have knocked the phone out of her hand, I could have knocked the phone out of her hand. Kenna weighs what, 80 pounds? So again, if I want to knock the phone out, but again, that's exactly what Gino would have done to me. Right? Didn't Gino dox me, and then after that he was going to dox me again? Remember, I was doing Kumia's show, me and Levy, and they cut to Gino, and this is when I told Gino I was going to beat him half to death, allegedly. Gino was like flashing my number on when they cut to him, flashing because Kumia pointed out. I didn't even notice. Kumia pointed out. So it's all fun and games till it happens to them. But again, if I wanted to knock the phone out of her hand, I could have knocked the phone out of her hand. But I was just playing with it. Because she's like, hey, I'm talking to my betrothed, Eugene. I mean, again, where was Eugene? Making money somewhere? I doubt it. Just Jules, $49.99 for saying to Keanu what we all want to. Again, get a job. Get a job, Keanu. You got way too much free time. Again, I could see if she's there with somebody, with another gal, but she wasn't. And then to be hanging out. And again, one of the reasons I didn't want Schmuel, and then even at the bar, we're at the tables, and then at some point, Schmuel wants to sit at the table near me, and I'm like, I just got up. Again, I want nothing to do with these fucking losers. And I know Schmuel is like a creepy guy, and he'll be like, look, Brennan let me take a picture of him. The whole thing's a work, that he's a tough guy. He's a pussycat when you're in person. I'm like, I made it clear that that's not the case. I did in Atlantic City when Carl's fucking half a brother came up to me, and I go, take another step towards me, it's going to be a problem for you. And Stevie Lou was there as a witness, and other people saw it. So it's like, yeah, I'm done playing like Bob wants me to take a picture. Bob wants me to take a picture with Schmuel. Jules. Thank you, Jules, and thank you, Danny G. I heard Schmuel was the star of the show. And then Schmuel is sitting, with the people that we like. I don't know who's sitting with Theo Hank, but mostly, fun, good-natured people. And then I see Schmuel sitting behind them. And then, so I said, so the show was over at that point. So I said, Schmuel, you're hilarious. Come on up. Everybody says, you're always like, you think you should be podcasting and whatnot. Come on up. And then people are like cheering him to come up. And then he starts reading, I don't know, he's reading something about Stuttering John off his phone. Then people are booing him. And then, so it kind of dug me a little bit of a hole. I'm not going to lie. And because it was the end of the show. Bob was not going to save it at this point. So then I brought Johnny Carson. I know Johnny Carson has like one-liners. He wanted to be in the first Ray Chad roast in Atlantic City that never materialized. I don't know if that was the Tennessee Beer Hall. One or two. I don't know. So Johnny Carson wanted to be on it. Remember, we were going to do like a Kill Kevin? And then Johnny Carson was going to be one of the Kill Kevin contestants. So I figured Johnny Carson has a couple of one-liners. But at this point, he's hammered. And Chad had a funny thing. He said, Johnny Carson, it's like you have Tourette's, because Johnny Carson just goes off. And so I figure I'll bring Johnny Carson up because he's probably got more fans than Schmuel Bugman. And Johnny Carson, he told a joke that I don't know if it hit. I don't know if and then I just told my none in the shower joke. And I don't even at that point, I know that joke is reliably, gets a laugh. So I'm like, all right, I did that. But at that point, Mark, the owner, was like, give me the cut sign. Like, when I was letting Schmuel and Johnny Carson. So I'm like, I don't care. I'm just ending the show now. And plus, he wanted me to tell him to, sit and wait in their table, wait at their tables for the checks. So, again, I'm making announcements, trying to keep it light. And again, Schmuel, everyone's like, oh, Schmuel's great. Let's have him come up and show how great he is. And then he's reading Stuttering John's police report or something. Happy birthday, boss. Kiki got the attention she wanted. Fuck Kiki. Thank you, Skybrick. Yeah, it's odd. It's odd. It's odd. It's like, leave. I get it. You're at the show. You want to see the show. People like shows. That's why people are always going to shows, Broadway shows, movies, and whatnot. It's very common to go to a show. So Kiki had the night off again. So go to a show, watch, but then to be hanging out literally like a $2 whore, literally standing up against the wall, smoking. But she's like, no, I'm just smoking a cigarette. Okay, then why'd you go to the bar? You can't smoke inside. I mean, it's unbelievable. Thanks for thank you. Brian Lana, yeah, I don't know. Brian Lana's like, I brought some girls. And then I was like, what? Like prostitutes, escorts? He's like, but I never saw them. And then apparently Teams with Tim and T.O. Hank or Johnny Carson went to Brian Landon's hotel room before the show. And I guess he had a nice room, and they Teams with Tim and T.O. Hank and Johnny Carson are shitting on him the whole time for having too fancy a room. Anyway, so then after Brian Landon was like, yeah, I brought a couple of girls. And I guess Ray was so bad they left, even though they came with Brian Landon and he was still there. I don't know. And then, Kiki looking like a $2 whore. Was fun last night, especially having to stop Johnny Carson from flipping the table. I mean, he literally wanted to fight everybody. I mean, so many people had to stop Johnny Carson. I mean, it was hilarious, but if you're in the middle of Johnny Carson and whoever he was yelling at, it was a little awkward. Like I kept doing this when Johnny Carson was talking. Like he'd go on these 2-minute rants and then at the end smile. And he kept telling me, he goes, Brandon, we're okay. We're miserable Irish. So we're in cahoots. Who is responsible for ensuring Gina got a chair? I stepped in. No, she did get a chair. No, there was actually a big chair. That's where I sat. But I think the comics, before I went up, I think that's like the comics couch. It's in the back. When you walk in, it's to the left. So I think that's where the comics are kind of supposed to sit. The guy, that Brooklyn guy was there. And then before I got brought up, I was standing back there, and then the bouncer goes, "This is for comics only." I said, "No, I'm going next." He goes, "Oh, okay." But this, the show Brian McCarthy was on stage, so then when I at one point I thought Gina was going to sit there, and then but they gave Gina a little table for her and her daughter. But I thought she should have got I thought the table was too small for Gina. I told Ray to close with they can't cut you. Oh, he did do that, but he didn't close with it, or maybe he did. I think he did it to fuck up me and Chad. I did it anyway. I told Ray to close with they can't cut us all. To stick it to Chad. Guess he didn't take my advice. Ray's did potential. No, he did it. He did it. I think earlier. He definitely did it because everybody cheered and I booed. Buckman trashes you on his show constantly. Yeah, was a complete fanboy trying to get a selfie with you. He totally embarrassed himself. Again, I know what they're doing because I've already dealt with this. Melton did it. Remember, Melton did it at the first Atlantic City because at that point I was out of the Melton business, and then when I went to eat by myself at halftime of the Super Bowl, I went to eat by myself. A lot of people were. Bentley was there. Ray was there. Somebody else was there. And so again, I sat with them, but Melton was there. So I sat with them because again, they saw me. They were like, Kevin. So then you know, it's like cafeteria style at the Regatta where it's the food court. So again, I could have sat by myself, but they would have been like, sit over here, you fucking weirdo. So I just, because I knew they would do it. So I just sat there. And then Melvin at one point took a picture. He's like, look, Brendan doesn't have a problem with me. So again, I already know what Schmuel's going to do. Schmuel's a nothing. Keanu's a nothing. Nothing could change that. Nothing can make Keanu anything more than she is. Whatever she is, that's what she is. Whatever Gino is, again, they like to yip and yap, but they have no talent for making any money at anything. I mean, Gino has no money ever. And Keanu just has all kinds of nights off. She doesn't work on a Saturday night. No spots.